champion with all that movement speed between, of course, just the movement speed in Cougar form and, of course, Runic Echo now giving the extra 10% movement speed. If you pick up the Herald buff, you're getting another 10%. Just the fact that Peanut is always there on some of these slower champions. Nidalee and her early game pressure with an early game jungler, too much for most teams to handle.
Yeah, Corki actually banned out this game by the Tigers, so not going for the same Kalista ban they went for last time.
Samsung, I think, desperate to pick up first pick Poppy. That's another champion that QV has shown a lot on. What's the Poppy?
Well, they're going to force a choice, though, probably between Kalista and the Poppy pick, unless they want to give one of those over for free.
I think Kalista's probably fine. CoreJJ's almost exclusively played Lucian, so...
Yep, they're going to ban it.
Not going to ban it. That's surprising to me, at least. And I think Poppy first pick is a natural fit.
But you give the Alistar over again to the Tigers, and that just fits into their play style. The GP comes out. It actually wasn't picked or banned. We didn't even mention that in the first game of this series, but now the Tigers decide Alistar and Gangplank, way to go.
That is in place of a potential other top lane carry. There's, of course, the chance that we see mid lane Gangplank, but we'll wait to see how the draft develops. Samsung's getting a lot of their priority champions. These are the sort of champions they do very well on, and now you're pairing the Poppy with the very safe wave clear from the Victor. Ambition's now moving to the Elise. Looking like a strong draft from Samsung.
Yeah, but they can play Lucian. They can play the Graves again here if they want to go for some
please, the
huge
Graves.
burst. I would love to see play the Graves again. Play Trundle in the top lane. GP Trundle, the split pushing dream, Papa Smithy.
I've been talking to a lot of analysts about just safe lanes or winning lanes against Poppy, and no one really has a standout winning lane, but Trundle top, we saw it yesterday in Champions, seems to be one of those situations where the base damages aren't really high enough and you can kind of shrug them off and split push the Poppy in all day. Will we actually see a Nocturne? Now, Clearlove did play this over in China, but just the Graves, and that's still a big treat.
Look, I like the Nocturne TF combo that EDG ran. I thought it was very well executed by them, but I would not play GP Nocturne. That's a little too much scaling. That's like, hello, would you like to kill me in my jungle in the early game? Yes, I would like to do that.
Look, to me, a team with Clearlove playing TF Nocturne is whimsical. It's back to Season 2 again. I wonder where good old Messiah is, but you're right. Feels like the Nocturne's not quite there yet. I feel it's one tweak away from being a popular jungler, but the Graves certainly right in the middle of the wheelhouse of Peanut and the meta.
I don't know if I'd want to be running Nocturne in a meta where Nidalee and Graves and Kindred can just walk into your jungle and kill you, but...
There is that. His base stats aren't the highest, and we were expecting the GP to go top, and Kuro on the LeBlanc. Now, one of Kuro's biggest weaknesses as a player that we saw throughout most of 2015 was inability to apply good lane pressure on any champion outside of Victor, but his LeBlanc stats this season have actually rivaled his Victor stats. He's really been on form with the LeBlanc, so gonna go for actually the counter matchup into Victor and try and punish the Victor early.
And we haven't really seen that much LeBlanc this season.
No.
It really came in hard in the first week of competition and then fell off pretty rapidly after that. So this will be the first time this week we have had a LeBlanc pick. And GP in the hands of Smeb in the top side, they have some crazy burst in the late game and in the mid game and in the early game.
Burst is something they have. Wave clear is something that's a little bit more difficult. The one thing you can say is that Graves for junglers actually does provide a lot of wave clear, and Lucian is decent in that area as well. But the moment you lock in the LeBlanc, it's a little bit harder on the wave clear front. So can they buy that time for Smeb? Because Poppy and Elise can certainly go to town on this Gangplank, oranges or no.
Yeah, that's going to be the trick. We did see the Peanut camp in the first game.
The Peanut camp.
The Peanut camp. It's like the Peanut Gallery, but outside in the jungle.
We're the Peanut Gallery for the ROX Tigers games, Monty.
We are. And all the fans are too. The Peanut Gallery, the one time it's actually a good thing is when you're watching the ROX Tigers.
And the story this season for sure. Crown's actually taken Ignite. Interesting.
Yeah, wow, going very aggressive against this LeBlanc. Those mid laners with the ignites. Gorilla taking it as well. And the Trundle now for the disengage. And after that last game and all the turret dives, all the aggression, can't really fault them for trying to play some more disengage with the Trundle. We're going to get into game 2. Samsung against the ROX Tigers starts right now.
Mother Nature, everybody wants to rule.
It's time for some more fun on Summoner's Rift. We see Samsung exiting their base up against the ROX Tigers, who are currently 1-0 in this best of 3. Going back to a Kuro staple for a long time, the LeBlanc, one of his champions that he has played quite a bit of over the years.
One of those spots where LeBlanc and Cassidy would have been considered, both of them in Kuro's wheelhouse, but Cassidy's certainly been an edge of the meta pick, and it feels like LeBlanc is doing his assassination job a little bit more reliably than Cassidy can pull off.
Well, Crown is going to have to be very careful. If he gets hit by a binding and the Grave swings through.
I mean, on the other side of the coin as well, you can say that, especially early game, plenty of magic damage coming out of the Elise. So jungle attention in the mid with no cleanses, with no teleports. Fighting words across the rift from both teams.
This will be Kuro's 19th professional game on LeBlanc, currently 11-7 overall. So fairly respectable stats. It is his 4th most played champion of all time.
I believe he's 2-0 this season and a greater than 10 KDA, so certainly been a strong pick for him.
Hey, compared to that to the Victor, though, we see the Victor priority obviously in this game, but all-time Victor is his most played champion, and he is a combined 21-5. So over 80% win rate, and that is why you do not give Victor to Kuro.
He even includes his IM stats as well, where he did play it once at World Championship a year ago. Victor has always been his specialty. He was undefeated, or close to undefeated, for a very, very long time.
Yeah, he actually had 0 losses, I think, heading into IEM.
12 or 13, I think, was the streak from memory, but eventually was shut down.
Wraith coming in. Checking out the enemy jungle right now, as we do have the lane swap. Samsung going to take the top side, and Wraith just popping that frozen domain and going for a few auto attacks. He already has red buff, going to miss the second hit on the Q. Kuro is here, and they're continuing to run after him, but Wraith does make it out. Gorilla comes up into the mid lane, and now is going to head back to the bottom side. But this Trundle is being very annoying, and he is delaying the attempt here to take down this turret. So we'll see how fast they can take down the turret in the top side now, and whether Samsung can swap back quickly.
The moment that ROX Tigers pivoted from trying to power down those camps to trying to kill the Trundle, you're right. The timer when it comes to getting to lane and bottom lane has been heavily delayed. At this point, they're certainly in no rush whatsoever. So if Samsung can take this turret quickly, and they do have the Tristana, and get bot, there is a scenario where ROX Tigers won't pick up the answering turret. They're trying to force it now, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, definitely going to be a little bit of a close call here, and the Tigers may also have to not get an ideal wave bounce off the turret if they're forced to take it down too quickly for fear of not taking it down at all. And that top turret should be pretty close to dying right now. We do see an early recall from Wraith, and that'll be it. So dual lane is recalling at the moment. They do have an edge in this lane swap, and now Tigers have to wait for another wave.
So we'll get it. That much is for certain, but will they get the bounce, as you mentioned? Trundle could have moved towards bot quicker, but ended up waiting for an item.
Yeah, they held up in their own base right there, so not trying to force an advantage out of that bottom side, and instead doing a very safe 3-man group up into the bottom lane, but that will allow the Tigers to get the wave back on their side of the map.
Interesting to think about conceptualized lane swaps in the 2016 season. When we have seen this fast lane swap players, Wraith is doing his best to harass Smev out of last hit range, but when we have seen these multiple lane swaps, when we've seen top and bot turret down, all it's succeeded in doing is really dragging out the early game to mid-game phase. You know, it feels like mid-game really hits when all those outer turrets are down, and mid-lane outer turret in particular has been heavily delayed when we've seen these lane swaps. It's harder to make those assertive roams that people like Gorilla love to do.
Can't go through the middle of the map, does make it more challenging, can't get in the deep wards as reliably. Now the one thing that Lane Swap did do was it gave Poppy a lot of free time and free CS in the top lane because...
Look at this, Smeb's just picking up wolves, he can't even enter lane.
Yeah, so that's the issue that we've seen, and now the fast push coming down, Ambition joining up once again, so they bought time here for Cuvée as a result of Prey and Gorilla being in the lane just a little bit longer, and that meant that Core JJ and Wraith were there as soon as the normal farming period for the top laner would begin. So they do get something out of it. Peanut will have to join up to match the turret damage right now, and Samsung going to move into the Dragon. So Samsung just a step ahead of the lane swap, accruing these very minor advantages, and that's all due to Wraith's delay. Very nicely played early on by this Trundle.
It's fun how you can track back to one contesting of the Raptor camp led to this flow-on effect that now is extra objectives for Samsung compared to what ROX Tigers can pick up.
Really good lane swap, and that's a great example of how you can snowball an advantage into much, much larger things, and how all of these players have to understand the complexities of the lane swap and what is and is not possible. And it also changes, of course, with the champions that you select. Easier to take the Dragon with the Elise, easier to take these turrets quickly or by themselves with the Tristana.
And so be careful, he's only level 4.
Yeah, he's actually going to get bursted, has to use his flash. A little bit greedy, but they do answer turret for turret, even gold, that means. But where are the advantages? It's on the Poppy, and the Gangplank going to be even slower in this game to get rolling. That said, Prey did get the CS advantage by farming out some more of these waves and being less aggressive about pushing the turrets.
Poor JJ keeps slopping into the lane with the Gangplank. Of course, always the threat of the support being there to catch up. The Gangplank means that Smeb has been consistently behind in CS, still now only at 19 to the 32 of Cuvée.
Look at these lane assignments too coming from the Tigers. Looks like they're kind of just leaving Smeb out to dry this game. They sent him into the top with the very long lane against the Tristana. Of course, that will push automatically due to the explosive charge, but the lane that was pushing towards them already, the Lucian, is going to grab. So Prey getting a little bit more priority in this game. We do see Samsung playing around their Tristana right now, trying to set up the vision and take away this red buff.
You might expect to see Samsung, first they're going to pick up the red buff. Of course, they are setting up around the Gangplank. Because of that auto pushing, turret dive certainly looks like a very juicy option, and we need to see the ROX Tigers sending multiple members, and yeah, you can see Gorilla there already. Peanut shadowing as well, because turret diving this big wave would be a further punishment for Smeb, who's spent so much of this game just picking up wolves, picking up scraps whenever he can.
Yeah, and Samsung, they took the Dragon first earlier on. Now they find themselves being able to get the Rift Herald. See, looks like Ambition will be the one gifted the buff.
Just keep tracking back, of course. Usually when we see lane swaps leading into Dragons, the answer is the Rift Herald, but there was no time for ROX Tigers to pick up that objective, so now both neutrals have gone over to Samsung, despite the fact there's been no kills this game.
Yeah. Still has been very... Well, he's not going to clear out the pink ward, unfortunately. Prey doesn't realize that it's in Tri-Brush before he recalls. And, yeah, the Samsung playing it very clean and just picking up small advantages here and there.
Funny thing is that from all this lane swap play that again Samsung's been more decisive about, the big loser, you know, on the one hand you'd obviously say it's Smeb, but I think the other big loser is Peanut, because his usual pressure game, his usual 1v1 against the enemy jungler, disregard the lanes or just have the lanes back him up as he uses his bravado, hasn't been a factor because he's just been second to react to the macro play from Samsung.
Definitely fallen behind, and he's had to do a little bit more counter jungling this game as a result of these deep turrets going down, but not without, or not with rather, the ability to get the vision or actually contest these objectives, simply just trying to mirror Ambition.
Smeb's been able to pick up a lot of CS when Tristana swapped back down to bottom lane, so actually he's ahead of Poppy out of nowhere.
Well, they did push the lane up, and then the counterplay there from the Tigers, where they joined up under the top tier 2, meant that Smeb, with the help of his teammates, could actually pick up that wave. So no dive, good reaction, and now he's got that wave moving all the way back across the map. But Poppy will get right back in the lead again. But here we go, and there's Core. He's going to jump out with that rocket jump right away. Wraith is coming through, but they're going to get cut off by the GP ultimate, and Prey there is going to pick up the first blood. Peanut walking forward. He's looking for Wraith right now, and he's going to get it. They couldn't actually get in front of that in time. Cuvee comes down only to die as Kuro gets another kill. That GP ult again doing work, and you can see once again that coordination. Gorilla using the flash and his pulve and his headbutt to set up a kill immediately as the roam comes through, and Smeb there uses his ultimate to get an advantage.
We're going to see the replay, as you mentioned, just how much space is controlled by the Gangplank ultimate. Kuro was so smart, realized the first kill was going to come down, changed targets onto Wraith. That's why they picked up the kill with the snipe from Peanut. You can cancel that teleport if you're Gangplank, and the big story here is actually happening off screen. We mentioned Gangplank to start as Prey just going to die, stayed too long, but Gangplank just stayed top. He kept CSing, he kept picking up farm, he didn't have to use his teleport, he ended up canceling and so have the slightly shorter cooldown, but in so many ways, ROX Tigers picked up multiple advantages and undid a lot of the good work by Samsung in the first 10 minutes.
Ambition, props to him though. He tried to repel in front of the Graves to take the collateral damage so that perhaps he could not only escape but save Wraith in that particular instance, but unfortunately it was just a hair too late.
Now the ROX Tigers, 1,500 gold ahead. First one to get the Frost Queen's claim, which of course popped during that chase down bottom. Kuro on lane dominant champions. Kuro in general, what a step up from this guy. He was seen as almost a weak link in the lineup next to Hojin, not in many steps ahead of him when it came to the firing line after every Coup Tigers loss, but suddenly shown a lot more as speaking of skill shots.
Yeah, there we go, and there, oh wow, Crown nearly dies, lives with just a sliver of health, and that was the danger, and Smeb finds him with the GP ult under the turret. Gets the coup de grace in the end, and now they push out Ambition with the culling. Again, the Tigers so coordinated, all four in the mid lane, and that's the trouble. You take that Ignite, well, that LeBlanc chain lands, and there's a Graves there, and you can do nothing.
And you're losing across the map. Tristan's just pushing in farm for Gangplank to pick up. He's gotten that extra kill from the snipe with the ultimate, and there's no way for Tristan to stop farm, as Cuvee is probably too tanky.
Yeah, not enough mana there too from Kuro to actually finish off that kill, and now the Dragon, first of the game for the ROX Tigers, will be taken here at 12 minutes. Very early couple of Dragons in this game due to the lane swap, but Samsung, they were doing well early, but once the aggression started to roll in and that GP ult, just the coordination around the Tigers starts once more, and Samsung doesn't have an answer.
Awkwardly, without leaving lane versus a teleport being blown and Cuvee being present at that last fight, Gangplank has still had more impact across the map than that pop.
Yeah, definitely been an issue, but Cuvee was just late there. By the time he actually showed up, the damage had already been done in that bottom lane. They do take a few pot shots at the turret, starting to whittle it down, and they're going to take another Rift Herald, but this is not much to compensate them for all they've lost. And now Smeb has pulled out to a CS lead despite being down substantially early on.
First 10 minutes were definitely pace set by Samsung before we saw that successful bot lane delayed 5v5. Specifically, it was about setting up around the Gangplank. It looked like they were going to turret dive him under his inner turret, and then you avert your eyes, you watch the other parts of the map, and he's got a Trinity Force on time, or if anything, a little bit early, and the waves keep getting pushed up to Smeb. And we saw Trace 2 days ago pull off a 25-minute, 3-item Gangplank, and Smeb's on course for that as well.
He is rapidly getting out of control, not to mention his kill and assist goal. I mean, picking up a kill like that, getting that money just for the ult is absolutely fantastic for him. Here we go, another press forward. Core gets chunked, and they have Peanut here again, like you said in the champ select, Papa Smith. They just great there for the wave clear. Really good understanding of where he needs to be, and also just constantly threatening to get that burst damage down and make a play should he be able to combo effectively with Kuro.
It's crazy to think that Graves is a champion who was always really poor in sieges when he was an AD carry. Of course, he was slightly longer range than he is now at 525, but very poor at sieging down turrets. Now, because he's coming from the jungle and because of his sheer wave clear, he's both good at defending against pushes, just firing out his Q, or just getting in melee range and getting that auto-attack buckshot damage onto enemy structures. So, new lease on life.
Oh, Crown gonna get caught. GP ult is down again, and that's gonna be a finisher there. Kuro is going to escape. Another kill onto Crown, and Bob Smithy, this mid lane is rapidly turning into a Crown fiesta.
It is turning into a Crown fiesta, Monte Cristo. I mean, you took Ignite on the Victor. You didn't have to take that Summoner. Could have been Cleanse, could have been Barrier, could have been Heal, could have even been Teleport. Took the Ignite and is consistently losing the trades, of course, with a big assist from Gangplank.
Yeah, again, that GP ult. I don't know if I've ever seen this many, oh, wow, nice dodge. Consecutively good Gangplank ultimates in a game. Every single one has been so clutch from Smeb.
Kuro does find ambition, but they back away.
Just Smeb's awareness of when to place it, how to coordinate it with the rest of his team, and when to use it to help out on the all-ins in these situations. Smeb, in the meantime, has continued just to farm up and now has that BF sword and the Trinity Force. 16 minutes, that is real fast.
Samsung setting up around the Gangplank, but honestly, Monty, I don't understand sending Tristana into the same lane as Gangplank. At best, you're going to be swapping CS, and oh, Gorella's caught though.
Is he? Caught is such an interesting term, Papa Smithy. He's going to get the ultimate used, but the trade there onto Ambition, pretty much even. May have to have some trouble here defending the turret. Peanut has to flash, actually, after getting hit by the spooky ghost. So Gorilla's damage does result in the turret finally going down in that mid lane, so we do see Samsung close the gold gap just a little bit.
It's what I don't understand is you're sending Tristana to swap farm with Gangplank, which is a wash or in the advantage of Gangplank, depending on how you think of late game Tristana. This is the thing that makes more sense. Prey was allowed to freeze in the bottom lane for so long. Cold Today finally enters lane.
And there's the GP ult again. They're trying to make it over. Kuro will dash into the river. Wraith is waiting there for him, but Core trying to get on the other side of this. There's Gorilla, comes in. Core just going to get a double tap right there. And Kuve, the next to fall, as they are just cut off another GP ultimate. Meanwhile, Smeb is also killing the turret. So Smeb here just doing an insane amount of work without ever even showing up. He has TP, by the way. He could have been there. He just chose not to be.
The official OGN subtitle for this VOD will be Meanwhile at Gangplank. Has he just casually spent his whole time in lane? Has he even teleported once, barring maybe defensively?
I think he teleported back into lane.
And he cancelled a teleport in bottom.
Yeah, he did cancel that TP.
That is a teleport, I guess. Not a full channel, but an attempt at it.
Well, he realized he wasn't needed. And then...
Isn't it a nice luxury to be not needed as Gangplank, so you can just get down to that farming?
Well, when you have perfect ult placement every time, you aren't needed. It's like, I will do better up here, dealing turret damage, taking an immense amount of farm, slowly, and by slowly I mean very quickly growing his lead to 60 CS. Remember, he started in the hole in this game with the shorter end of the stick.
He was picking up wolves while Poppy was picking up lane farm. Smeb, always impressive. It's finding new and unique ways to impress us.
This is a very impressive game from the Tigers. I feel like we say that a lot.
Every game, actually.
Every game.
ROX Tigers going to pick up their first of the Rift Heralds. Previously been completely controlled by Samsung, and Samsung had a wonder, after playing such a clean 10 minutes, how it all just fell away.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you try and take some of these fights, and also the ROX Tigers composition. If you overextend even a little bit, the amount of damage that they can put on you in less than a second is pretty huge. Of course, the Lucian and the LeBlanc and the Graves. So you have to be very cautious in how you play on the map. I wonder when people are going to stop giving Gorilla Alistar, because to me that is the one constant that we see in the Tigers compositions, and it's the backbone with which they use to build leads by diving and aggressive early play.
Again, though, when Gorilla gets a champion, it feels like he's already the best at it. Every time we mention, we're like, wow, how does Gorilla get Tom Kench? It's not even a support pick we talk about, but Gorilla makes it work as Gorilla's caught, but again, just walking away.
And there we go. Peanut will secure that dragon. He's a little bit low on the front line. Kube there is going to take the Mimic Death, and now Gorilla comes in for a little bit of zone. Barrels are being laid down. Forces the flash, actually, from Wraith. Kuro's not done. Chain will miss. And there you go. ROX Tigers once again, 2 for 0 and a dragon in the end as they just charge forward into the enemy. And look at this, Bob Smithy. They have a nice little wave there on the bottom side. They have access to the red buff. Wraith is trying to sit there, but they'll quickly chase him off with some barrels.
One thing about ROX Tigers drafts, which again have been both amusing and smart throughout the course of their soon-to-be 5 wins on the trot, they either get Victor for Kuro or they pick up Alistair for Gorilla. And you might think, okay, what's the relevance there? It's that so many games have been stall-out fest, as you're already impressed by the damage coming out from the barrels. But so many games have been stalled by Victor, who's another champion that's been almost ever-present this season. Think about Alistair. Walks behind the Victor, walks behind the turret that he's so easily wave clearing around, and just punts him out and kills him. So that Alistair's doing so much work to break what has been some really drawn-out mid-games. And whether you have the Victor or you can account for it, ROX Tigers look great.
Absolutely. I don't understand Gangplank. So he has all these cannons at his command.
Yeah, there's a ship just off the course of the map.
Right, but isn't this on top of a mountain? Those are some pretty impressive cannons, especially when they rain down directly.
Funnily enough, if you actually, I mean, we can't actually direct the observer, but if you go right to the top left corner, you can see water, you can see...
Yeah, way down there.
That's where the cannons are coming from.
The cannonballs are falling directly from the sky, too. Oh, Peanut caught out. He is going to get hit by that explosive charge, and he's going to try it back out, but there's the kill. Smeb here now does actually use his teleport. There's some barrels. There's a flash forward from Gorilla and the knock up, and there you go. 1 kill for Prey as Kuro comes over the wall. Ambition, though, finishes it up onto Kuro. Prey now caught in the cocoon. Have they overextended this time? And yeah, nice series of kills there from Samsung. Smeb going to have to play defensively. Can't actually get the barrel off, and so he is going to have to beat a retreat on the heels of Gorilla. And Samsung now, can they do something with this advantage? Their waves are not in the best locations.
Let's see what's spawned. Of course, Baron is up, but it's too early for that objective. No dragon to pick up. I thought Kuro was going to delete people with the Mimic Distortion, but because he, at the time, only had Abyssal Scepter and the Frost Queen's Claims, didn't quite have the damage to get what would look like an easy double kill, and the results, good turnaround by Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, I think he actually had waited too long on the recall there.
I believe he did not even have a nearly large run.
Yeah, I don't think he did either. I'm sure we'll see a replay of that, but I think he was sitting on a very large bank. Well, no, we won't.
Yeah, Peanut got deleted, even through the extra Mamodia's shield, but I think the big thing is this should have been multiple kills, but it's actually only about 300 damage on the Mimic Distortion. Samsung live, and Samsung finally get a window back into a game that, again, they did really well at the start, but 13 minutes of ROX Tigers playing at their best has put them right back behind, 5K gold behind the ROX Tigers.
Yeah. But fortunately for them, at least they drug out the TP in addition to the kills, so now they can buy themselves some breathing room and have this Poppy start to farm out these big waves in the bottom, closing that gold gap just a little bit.
Yes, breathing room for Smeb to flame Horizon a little bit slower.
Oh, we have to start somewhere. Ambition there. Double Q. And... oh! He died in the stratosphere.
Yeah, the damage registered. The Ignite was at the last second and got burned to death.
Burned to death in the sky. Okay, well, with that kill, the Tigers have some opportunities to auto this turret. Gorilla does the headbutt pull just as a zoning move right there. Can't quite catch anybody, but he does allow them to defend. Okay, by Core, and that'll be an inhibitor for free as Smeb sets up the barrels for some further zoning, and they will saunter out of the base as they take 2 kills for none and the first inhibitor of the game.
The damage calculation from Core JJ based on that last Mimic Distortion certainly not reflected when the Luton's Echo was completed. A casual QR into instant kill on the half-health Tristana and Kuro. He's piling on those kills, Monty. He's got the most kills this season. He's got 6 more this game. He's doing his thing. And remember, some of those games are on champions like Lulu, on more defensive laners, and still, he's been all over those scoreboards.
Yeah, just been going off. 1 minute until Dragon. Should be certainly in the Tigers' hands unless they try and play around the Baron right as the spawn happens, but it looks like they're not going to take any chances, just go back in.
One thing I want to talk about build-wise is what Peanut's doing here. So, of course, we've seen a lot of jungle graves, specifically this week. It's all been about the Ghost Blade second, the Snowball Ghost Blade after you finish the Warrior chat. This time, though, more of Malmortius and soon-to-be Sterix Gage. You look at this lineup, it's only Alistair as a pseudo-tank. They don't have another frontliner. This is the frontline Graves build where you get a magic damage shield, you get a percentage health shield, and then if you're just keeping the fight going, you're going to get those quick draw resets, get those extra resists. Peanut is effectively the true tank of this team, and he does a bit of damage as well.
Yeah, I like that adaptation though. Like you're saying, especially if they don't have Gorilla's ultimate up, it could be a huge game changer. So not going full aggressive. They certainly don't need any more damage in the late game. Crown! Oh no. Well, he gets the kill in return. Actually gets the shutdown gold there, so that'll be nice.
Not a bad 1-for-1 trade. Will Peanut be able to get a lot of tower damage? Get a lot of damage, but not quite enough.
Culling used. Dragon is back up right now, Smeb. Doing a little bit of dueling here with Cuvee. Ambition is going to find him on the side and forces Flash.
Actually, was flashed away from the instant cast ultimate from Cuvee, who did use it just there, but wasn't in range.
Oh, there we go. Core gets turret dove again. A little bit too close, and he pays the price. Gorilla is so good at surprising people with his flash combo. It's happened again and again. He gets on you incredibly quickly. Core never really had a chance even to get out of that one, and that will mean another inhibitor for the Tigers. They just go for the inhib. It wasn't Dragon, Bob Smithy. It wasn't Baron. It was mid inhibitor instead.
It's never objectives. They are never forced to things as menial as 5th Dragon or fighting around Baron. They create their map pressure. They take everything. Now it's going to be the blue buff as well. The anti-KT rollster in week 1. That's the way I like it. Quick, fast, and explosive.
Hey, KT was very explosive this week.
That's true. I think they took some notes from the ROX Tigers.
Definitely following in their footsteps. So Scuttle Crab now for Smeb. Let's go ahead, hit with those barrels. So my question about Gangplank though is, out of all the weapons you could take off of a ship, why would you take barrels full of gunpowder that you have to shoot? He's got cannons, and if he can make a heavy object like a barrel full of gunpowder appear, can't he just make a cannon appear?
So you can tell the fact that, I mean, the cannon, wow, this Cold JJ took so much damage, but the cannon plays pretty impressive. We've already established that the Summoner's Rift is really far away from the water where the cannon's shooting from, that particular pirate ship, so it takes quite a lot of precision to be able to aim it so well. They can only do it once in a while.
Especially on the extreme hyperbolic curve that they would have to actually get to the top of the mountain and have it rain directly down on top of somebody.
When are we going to hear the name of that amazing gunner they have? Because just with a single shout from Gangplank, he's very on the ball.
Yeah,
so he can only do that, you know, every few minutes. He needs time to punch in the coordinates.
It's like programming a computer right there.
And the bigger question is, where does he fit 5 barrels in his model? That's my question.
All right, well, back to the engage. Gorilla going to stop any counter engage. There's the GP ultimate. Core is getting very low already. Has to get out of that one with his flash. Crown now on the run, but Kuro will take the kill, just sliding forward with the damage and not going to pick up any other. Oh, I lied, Papa Smithy. The second proc on the chains will do enough as he gets through the fountain healing, and the Tigers now once again just going to take an easy win. Another sub 29-minute win as the Nexus explodes. They don't need a Baron, and that's just going to be it. So very impressive play there from the Tigers.
And they turn it on so quickly. Remember, they hardly lost the macro game in the first 10 minutes. If anything, they gave Samsung a 10-minute head start. And then 18 minutes later, they've got it all wrapped up. They look clean doing it. You can't even remember some of their struggles with the lane swap play and the smart adaptation from Wraith to contest them at those Raptors. And the ROX Tigers just keep winning.
I mean, that's the thing. It wasn't like they got crushed in the lane swap, but they were playing from behind legitimately but they managed to turn it into a win. I think you pointed it out, Papa Smithy. A lot of that was the questionable lane assignment of the Tristana into the GP lane. That was definitely very helpful because had they been able to get that dive and push the wave and make a more aggressive play, they could have shut down the GP. But since they weren't willing to commit, and since the Tigers were playing such great defense around that top side, they were never able to have that opportunity, and instead they just funneled farm right into Smeb's pockets.
Should never be allowed to put a hyper carry into the same lane as Tristana because the
well, you can if you dive it. If you dive it, you can.
Sure.
You just have to have that follow-up.
They looked to dive at the first 9 minutes, then they lost that team fight, they lost that vigor to dive, and it ended up just free farm for GP.
Well, there you go, guys. A quick win for the Tigers, 2-0 over